So I'll enable the audio here for
Great
everybody
stuff.
to hear.
I was just saying, I think we may have sort of somehow hacked Google's top limit of 15 odd people by having people join on one video stream. So that's
Perfect.
really cool. Perfect. Good stuff. So I think what we'll do then, we're sort of pretty much on time, I think. So I think we'll start off with Brendan. So the kind of structure for today, just so everyone knows, is basically a relatively formal kind of informal hangout. So if anyone kind of has any questions or anything, the best thing probably to do is kind of wave your hand at the camera, or there is a chat on the left-hand side. So if anyone wants to say something, if you click the left-hand side, there's a little chat app in the top right, and I'll just write hello in there now. So you can basically say you want to say something or ask a question, or try and unmute your mic, otherwise it will get quite noisy. But yeah, other than that, I think it would be good to start with kind of just an overview from Brendan, who's from IBM on the Bluemix team. Just kind of a bit of background on what Bluemix is, quite high level, just kind of a 5-minute overview. And just kind of covering, where did Bluemix come from? Why is it maybe relevant to startups? Why should you guys get excited about this? And what's Watson? How can you utilize the power of Watson sort of so easily? So just kind of an overview, and then I think what we'll do is we kind of fortunately we have a few guys joining us in from San Francisco, which is if I can unmute Martin's microphone, I'll find it in a minute. They're joining us from Tech. Oh, hey Martin, you can hear me? Good stuff. So you're joining in from San Francisco from TechCrunch Disrupt, right?
Yeah, that's right now.
Fantastic. So basically, these guys have been hacking with Bluemix the last few days, doing really well, like winning some prizes and stuff from IBM from their product they've built. So we'll probably go straight to you guys after the intro and just kind of hear a little bit from you about your experience actually doing a proper hackathon using Bluemix and some tips and things. And then basically kind of after that, it would generally be just a Q&A. So I've got a bunch of questions that people have stacked up from today that I can cover. There's a few from my side. And then if anything comes up during the presentation, just post in the chat there, and I'll try and get that covered. But yeah, without further ado, I'll sort of hand over to Brendan then, who can maybe cover just a bit about where did Bluemix come from, and sort of what is all this Bluemix stuff all about.
Cool. I see a lot of people. Is that you, Jason? You're muted. It's better. Cool, thanks. So hello everybody, and it's cool to hear that there's people even in the US there 9 hours after us here in Sweden. I guess it's a good thing we started this call at 7 rather than at 3 in the afternoon. I imagine it would be so just real quickly, myself and why I work with Bluemix. So I came from a company called Telelogic in Sweden, in Malmö, Sweden, that was headquartered here, and I worked both in the product development here, as well as in the U.S. market, taking some of our products to market. And we worked a lot around trying to speed up development. So everything from capturing requirements to managing tasks to looking at build aspects, etc. And consulted a lot of companies for a long time. And one thing we found is getting the infrastructure up and running and getting the environments accessible to developers to build on things as similar to what we were going to deploy on and put into production as possible, and getting that done fast was essential. So in the past, after we got acquired by IBM in 2008, I went to work on the WebSphere portfolio, which is big, thick middleware stacks historically. And what we've been doing in the last 8 years is really breaking it down into a bunch of small pieces and taking the open source traditions in IBM around Linux and Eclipse and putting it into our cloud platform, Bluemix. And Bluemix is basically built off OpenStack, Docker, and Cloud Foundry, all 3 open source projects we contribute to heavily. And it's a public offering that any developer across the globe can access. We also provide it as a private dedicated clouds for clients. And we also provide it on-premise for some of our much larger clients who need a enterprise-grade platform as a service that manages everything from, like I said, Cloud Foundry down to Docker containers and virtual machines as well. I'm trying to read the comments at the same time, guys. No questions I see, just some people muting each other. So that's kind of Bluemix in a nutshell, right? It's basically putting together infrastructure as a service together with platform as a service all the way up into the application layer with Cloud Foundry. And this has been a journey that IBM has been on for probably the last 4 or 5 years, putting this together and building a DevOps and continuous pipeline on top of that. Here in Malmo, we do some of the pipeline and continuous delivery tooling for the platform. No, it's not comparable to Citrix, although I'd love to understand which part of Citrix you're referring to, because maybe there's a piece I'm missing. If you're thinking like Zen Mobile, then not the case, but it does have a mobile backend as a service, set of services in it. So the key for you guys when you're developing on it is if you want to run PHP or Rails or Go or Node or Java or what have you, any type of container that can get deployed into a Cloud Foundry runtime can be deployed. As well as if you have a Docker container with some of your own stack on top of it, or you want to pull something off the Docker hub, you can pull that and deploy it into Bluemix as well. And if you want to run your own virtual machines based on OpenStack, you can go ahead and stand those up. So you can basically stand up a mesh of application runtimes, Docker containers, and virtual machines to get whatever you need up and running fast. What else? So why would you care if you're hacking? So typically what we find is that as teams start developing together, you need a central place to run it and test it and integrate it. And while we've been in hackathons where people try to get that up and running on their own computer, I see somebody sharing some Bluemix screenshots over there. That's great.
That's me. So I'm just firing up the console for you there, Brendan. Doing some live editing on as you go.
Yeah, great. Do you want to show that? But yeah, so typically what happens is when people want to start integrating their pieces together and taking their code and deploying it somewhere, it's going to be much faster to deploy it to Bluemix than it would be to integrate on somebody's laptop. That's also because it's plugged into things like GitHub, and it uses Cloud Foundry push. And of course, as I mentioned, we have a pipeline tool which will pick stuff up straight out of your GitHub project and automatically deploy it to Bluemix. Why you care from a startup? Well, there's a couple. We get this question a lot at IBM. Why would we use Bluemix over something else? More often than not, if you want to go after anything that leverages some of our third-party services, or you want to build some services yourself that you deliver to our customers across the globe. So if you have some enterprise-grade stuff that you want to deliver, then Bluemix is a great platform. But as well, if you want to leverage stuff out of our platform into your products and services, or if you think your product and services might at some point have some specific security requirements that may be sensitive from a public cloud perspective. So we start seeing this at people who are doing government services or healthcare services or anything around some sort of high security in nature, fraud detection, banking, etc. These kind of things. So think enterprise grade and security and fast and innovative, and there's Bluemix for you.
That's great, Brendan. Well, I really love this last point you made because, I mean, for me, you know, my background is as a startup guy. You know, basically building products, building MVPs. Startups often don't have the resources to basically go and custom build all this stuff. And when I kind of looked into this console, I was like, wow, is that seriously all the stuff you can do with a click of a button? You can basically, you know, plug in, for example, here you've got the question and answer service where you can basically process natural questions and actually so ask phrases like, you know, who was the main voice behind ET, for example, and you could utilize the power of Watson to actually process that data and give you an answer without actually doing any code. So a tiny bit of code compared to what you would be doing if you're doing that from scratch. So this is the bit I think that really for startups, I mean, you basically can see here you've got like Twilio integrations. You can be sending SMSs off to people. You can plug in Twitter data. There's big data in there. So you basically just got a ton of these services, and you can just plug and play. And then I read somewhere the kind of beauty for developers is you can basically focus on the code. So you can do what you guys like doing best, which is the fun and to some degree the most intelligent bit, rather than messing around with all the infrastructure. Is that fair?
Yeah, absolutely. You're nailing it. So you mentioned some of the Q&A services. So you may have heard of Watson. When we competed with Watson in Jeopardy, that was just kind of one thing that nobody can consume. What we've done since then is we've broken up into a bunch of APIs, like you mentioned, the Q&A API. There's concept insights. There's you can do concept extraction. You can do speech to text. So I actually had a couple of people I ran into. I didn't even know they were using Bluemix. We've been talking about different services, and they said, yeah, we've been really testing out that speech to text, and it's better than any speech to text out there. So it's basically taking a lot of cognitive capabilities, a lot of ability to plug in IoT, a lot of big data and analytics capabilities, together with this kind of any runtime, any language you want, based on that underlying Cloud Foundry, Docker, and OpenStack platform, and letting you guys kind of build on top of it. And if you want to build an API-based service and try to monetize that and sell it, we partner with startups and clients like Twilio. Like there's some Pitney Bowers geocaching stuff in there, SendGrid. There's a whole bunch of services in there that we're delivering to our clients and to all the startups who want to consume this platform.
So one question from Uppsala here. If you'd like to try this out, what should you do?
Just log in with your email address and get going. Go to bluemix.net.
So you basically have, as I understand, you get a free trial for 30 days. Is that right?
Yeah, that's a good point for clarification. So there's a free trial for 30 days, and after that, every service in there has a free tier. So after 30 days, it will ask you to put a credit card in, but there's a free tier on everything. So we actually do projects where we put credit cards in, and we never actually get charged back to the credit card because the free tiers are enough to do some of the small stuff.
So you can basically kind of build MVPs and sort of hack products without actually using any cost at all, basically.
Yeah, and then if you actually think that you're going to start incurring costs and you're enjoying it, we have a global entrepreneur program that we've been working with tons of companies in Sweden for the last few months. I've personally been involved with quite a lot of companies, basically porting their applications into Bluemix and running it there. We got some videos you can check out on YouTube around BitCraze Crazy Fly, which is an open source drone platform we're shifting to Bluemix as a backend. Another company called ModCam we did recently. They do intelligent visioning products, and they're kind of putting their whole operational stuff in Bluemix. And once they kind of see they need enough workload moving up in the cloud, they join our global entrepreneur program and get access to the platform and, of course, get cloud credits.
So, Brendan, I'm just going to stop you there and switch over to Martin. Hey, Martin, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Hey, good stuff. So Martin is joining us from TechCrunch Disrupt over in San Francisco.
How are you?
Thanks for joining us. And you guys are really interesting to speak to, because you've basically been doing what we're about to start doing in Uppsala is on the 4th of October. We're having a backup, so we're basically going to have a whole session all day messing around with Bluemix, building things, hopefully building some products that we can actually demo, and there'll be basically a prize for the winner. And that's basically what you've been doing on a huge scale at TechCrunch Disrupt. So can you tell us a bit about what you've built? So you've built a service called, it was Analyze My Reviews, right?
Yes. Can I share my screen?
Yeah, sure. I'll share my screen for you there, Martin.
I don't know if you see my screen.
There we go.
Okay. So what we basically build on Hackathon, and you only have like 10 hours to build it, so there are a lot of things we need to work on this. Well, the idea was basically get from hotel.com, TripAdvisor, check all the reviews, and give the user like an overview of what people are talking on those reviews. Basically, like if you go to hotel.com, there are like places you have like 20,000 reviews, so it's impossible to read them all. So what we will, something like this, the hackathon.
That's great. So in case the audio is not amazing here, but just to kind of give a recap, you've built a service using Bluemix that basically analyzes reviews from websites, processes that text, and then gives some kind of output on the kind of sentiment behind that text. So whether the text is very positive or negatively worded, you've built a product around this, and you basically did that all within the space of the hackathon, right?
Yes. Sorry for the connection. There's a conference really bad. Yeah, we basically use Alchemy API from Bluemix, and we use 3 different services. One for the keywords that you are seeing here, that basically takes keys to text and give you like an insight of like the keywords that people are using and if they are talking good or bad about it. Then what we also integrate, let me show you here.
So guys, just briefly, because I think it's a little bit hard to hear you, but I think we could probably get a couple of nuggets from you before you head off. So, but I was wondering, is there any kind of tips you have for other programmers who are kind of going to do this? Is there any particular services you think stand out, particularly with regards to hackathons? Because like, obviously Bluemix, as a platform is massive, you can do quite a lot with it. But in the context of a hackathon, what are the kind of key things you learned that kind of helped you to build this product in a short space of time?
For me, the most important is talking with the people of Bluemix on IBM or any API you're using. Just go with them and tell them to help you. Yeah, at this kind of presentation, everyone was super eager to help you, tell you how to work, and that speed up things a lot. That's my recommendation. It's like talk with the people of the API and get their advice.
Yeah, hi guys, I'm Hernan, I'm Martin's partner. I've been working with him on Hackathon, and I'm going to share a link that we used to start with our idea. This is an example of the Alchemist API documentation, and you can find there. And another tip is that the documentation of the API is actually really good, and there are some examples that you can take just to have some ideas for the hackathon. That's another advice.
Great stuff. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for your help on that. So I think what I might do then is, I think we're just about 20 minutes in now. I think I'll swap to the FAQs. So we've got quite a few questions stacked up from people. So do we have, let's see, do we have Joachim Antus in the room somewhere?
I'm waving, Jason.
Oh, hey man, hey.
Hey, I just want to make a comment.
Sure,
So,
yeah, go ahead.
One thing cool about some of the Alchemy APIs is a lot of the cognitive APIs in the market don't support Swedish. But like the Alchemy News API and some of the other Alchemy APIs, they support Swedish, which is pretty cool for a Swedish hack. So something we'd love to see people exploit is some of the Swedish sensitive APIs.
Fantastic. That was actually a question. I think somebody raised that in one of the questions. Actually, I think it was Mikael Hus. If we have Mikael somewhere.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, somewhere. But yeah, so he was curious about that. He was asking basically one of the questions is of the APIs. What does he say? He says to the title of a specific language, e.g. English and Spanish, and which are not, if any in particular, which APIs could be conceivably work with Swedish. So that is an option basically to process stuff in Swedish. Yeah,
on some of the, definitely not on all of them. We're kind of in the process of adding language support to everyone as we go, but Swedish is oftentimes in the top 8 that we port to, which is quite interesting. It says a lot about developers in Sweden, right?
Cool, yeah, awesome. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So like, I was going to ask about also Joachim had a question about image recognition. So he was saying something about at the moment he thinks it's on beta at the moment, and he reckons that's pretty powerful, and says, so my question is, can I create my own very specific classifiers and train them? There was an example of a specific bird breed classifier. So have you got any thoughts on that?
I'd say try it. Yeah. I'd say try it. I haven't done that myself yet, but I don't see any reason why you couldn't. I think it lets you do some configuration and stuff.
Cool. Sounds good. So we'll give it a go. I mean, one thing to say about that, Joachim, is you can basically try that out ahead if you like. So we're for the hack up actually on the 4th. So we're not actually saying to people you need to start programming on the 4th. So if you want to form your teams and start coding beforehand, that's absolutely, you know, you're absolutely welcome to do that. Some of you will have a bit of a head start, and it's one of these kind of platforms. It's good to actually download it, get a bit of experience, or at least download is the wrong expression, but log in and actually get familiar with the console. So yeah, do that and test out some stuff.
Just to comment, this probably is not awkward, but go to Stack Overflow and post questions there if you have any. We all follow it, and we'll be helping you out.
We've also, by the way, set up a Slack channel. So for any of you guys that are using Slack, which IBM, you guys I know actually do use that as well. So
absolutely,
we can basically plug you in. So we have this Slack channel running. You just mention the guys from IBM, and they'll come and help you right up until the actual hackathon day. And then we're going to have IBM obviously there at the actual hackathon as well. So let's just have a look at some more questions. So I think this is actually a similar question, but it was one about image recognition. Did I cover this one already? So no, actually, there's one here. It was an interesting one about the catalog services. So one question from Mikkel again was about can the catalog services be expected to extract patterns from texts that are no natural languages? So he was looking at actually DNA sequences and was curious if you could feed in DNA sequences and then basically do something with like text from scientific articles. Is that something you think you could do?
I think that's I think that's something I look at the concept extraction service for.
Concept extraction. Okay, cool. Good stuff. I think probably Mikkel is here. If you're here, just wave your hand at the camera, but I don't think he's actually live, so I think we're good. So yeah, what I might do is I'll cut back to you guys at the event. Actually, is Johannes still around? Maybe we've lost him. Let's have a look. Yep, I think we've lost him. So I think they're good. So I think you answered all of their questions, Brendan, so beautifully that they're all happy. So I think what I would do, I think we're actually kind of almost coming up to kind of time on this. So what I might do is, has anyone got any further questions in the chat that they want to ask whilst we're still on air? There's a couple of things. So some Enrique, I think, was asking a bit about the Watson Cook API. Do you know anything about that? Is Enrique there? Maybe I could unblock him then. Let's see. Annoyingly, Hangout has this very weird feature where it won't let me scroll down that far, so I have to find where.
I'm here.
Oh, you're there, Enrique. Hey, how's it going?
Fine, thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, fire away. What's your question about the Cook API?
Well, to begin with, we're not even sure there is a Cook API. We know that IBM released a web app with Watson Cook. I think it could be developed, and especially if it were in Bluemix, I think it could be made much more than it is today. But so I'm just curious if anyone here has any knowledge of what's being working on in the API fronts for Watson and other APIs. Might be also interesting to know.
Yeah, so you're thinking about like the Chef Watson stuff, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Last I checked, it wasn't out yet, but I know there was talk about releasing some stuff. So let me just double check something. So basically, no, I don't think there's an API out on the corpus around the cooking stuff yet. But it is under discussion, absolutely. Just so you guys know, the background on the Chef Watson was they were trying to come up with a way to kind of build its own corpus of different substances, right? And which ones paired up well together. And so they basically built a corpus up of all the recipes across numerous cookbooks, right? To try to come up with the different cuisines and what types of substances, molecular substances, in those ingredients fit together well to align to those cuisines. And they basically built a corpus off of it that allows them to kind of steer and make decisions to come up with new recipes that nobody's ever come up with before. It's definitely worth taking a look at to get an idea of what the power is when you kind of take some unstructured data like a bunch of recipes and combine it with some very structured data like what the molecular composition is and how things impact taste and whatnot.
Does that answer your question, Enrique?
Well, the answer was not yet. I understood, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. So yeah, it answered my question. Thank you.
Mohammed, so you had a question. I was speaking to you earlier. So you're basically a beginner, and just a point as well, just more generic points about the actual hackathon itself coming up. So we're not saying that all of you have to be expert programmers to be in a hackathon team. So ideally, one of you should probably be quite a strong developer, because obviously it's good to actually kind of finish the hackathon with a finished product. Whereas you can actually, if you like, partner up with some experienced developers, and it's kind of half the thing about hackathons. It's really getting involved, and often you'll find that good developers will be on hand to help you to build stuff. So Mohammed, I think we're going to try and sort you out with a team. But he was asking, how long does it take basically to learn to use each kind of built-in service of the catalog? Like, are there any tips on kind of getting stuck in there before the hackathon?
Yeah, so I mean, I guess if you haven't written any code at all, then some of the ones, like some of the Watson ones, are pretty easy to test out, because you can just like cut and paste text into it. And the IoT stuff, you can kind of get a feel for it really quick just with Node-RED, and there's some like try it out demos in like 5-10 minutes, right? But if you try to use any of the runtimes or any of the data analytics ones, you probably are looking at 4 to 8 hours to kind of get up to speed if you've never done any of it.
Yeah. So the other thing maybe to point out as well is, so as part of the Bluemix suite, you get access to these boilerplates. So as you can see, there's a lot of stuff here that basically kind of gets you like up and running quite quickly. So I'm guessing that's probably relatively good for beginners who don't want to deal with all that kind of stuff when you get started from scratch. They can just basically use the pre-existing boilerplates, right?
Yeah, like the IoT Foundation one's pretty simple to get started with.
Yeah.
You can basically take a device, embed chip or a TI tag or something like that, or a phone. You can get going rather quickly in a couple of hours.
Cool. So Eric had a
Red is quite flexible, so you can do more things than just IoT. I mean, you can communicate with databases and other stuff, so you can make mock-ups there quite easy, other than just IoT stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. Good stuff. So Eric was asking a question. So he was asking, are you there, Eric? Can we hear your audio? Let's see if we can unmute you here. Oh, there we go. Can we hear you, Eric? No, it doesn't look like so. But maybe he's not got his audio or something. But he's asking, are there any drop-in native mobile SDKs for integrating with the API-based services?
Okay, that's a good question. So most of the services in there have a kit that if you use the mobile boilerplate, right, you can pick whether or not you're doing iOS or hybrid or whatever, and it will give you the SDKs to allow you to get started faster. So use the mobile boilerplate.
Cool. Victor's also posting a link to, yeah, I think that's exactly what you were talking about, Brendan. Good stuff. Cool. So does anyone have any final questions? Because if not, what I'll probably do over the last couple of minutes is just talk a little bit about the hackathon itself, what's going to happen. Otherwise, are there any final questions about the platform itself? I think Bayer has a question. Oh, yes, so I missed you. Sorry, Bayer, you did actually ask that before, but I missed you. Are you there somewhere? I can see if you're there. There you are. Let's see. Have you got a mic there, Bayer? I think you're muted. Nope, that's not working. So I'll read it for you. So yeah, he's asking, is it possible to access okay, I have no idea what this is, but access Keystone Client and Nova Client API OpenStack components? Do you know anything about that, Brendan?
We haven't integrated anything to it, but there's nothing to say that you can't integrate to it. Let me just double check. It's just a Python client, like yeah, I haven't done it. I'd have to read up on it.
Cool. Maybe we could ping you after, Bayer, and we can check that one out for you. Probably the best thing is, guys, also
sorry, this is Ulf again. I mean, I don't know, but if these APIs are published somewhere and open, I mean, this is just coding, so you can, I mean, any services on the web or anything you can access with your code in Bluemix, so it doesn't have to be complicated.
Yeah. As
long as it's published already.
Yeah, so it sounds like the answer is yeah, probably Bayer. So what we'll do is we'll find out for you and let you know. But it sounds like that will be possible.
Yeah, I just need to look at it a little bit to tell you what needs to get done.
Cool. Good stuff. So Mohammed is asking, is it possible to build a video platform like YouTube only with pre-built services? So yeah, building YouTube in a hackathon will be a little bit overzealous, you could say.
Well, yeah, it's interesting to note that there are a lot of data services on the back end, right, for storing different types of data. So, and there is a Ustream service, right? So you can stream video over it.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah.
So enjoy.
If you build YouTube in a hackathon, Mohammed, I'm going to be pretty impressed. You'll get an extra prize for that, I think. So, yeah, I think. Well, I'll also. I mean, one other thing I was going to ask you about is a really cool example was this Internet of Things example. So this is obviously a big part of what Bluemix can do as well as integrate with real components. You have this racing car. I think it's called the Legacy car. Liberty car, that was it. Yeah, so we're actually going to probably be having one of these at Uppsala, driving around, so we're going to actually be able to see one of these. But how does this thing work? What is the Liberty car?
So the Liberty car is basically, so one of the runtimes we support, this shouldn't surprise you coming from IBM, is the Liberty Java runtime. So Liberty Java runtime, I don't know if you've been following what's happening with Java lately, but Java got really big in the Java EE days, and they had Java SE and Java CE and or Java ME, all these various versions. So they've changed the Java standard so that they have different profiles. And Liberty Profile is basically one of the smallest profiles of Java that you can run. And the Liberty car basically has Java running on a car, and you can drive it over the web. So basically, you can drive the car from Bluemix and from a mobile device, and you're controlling it through Java routines. So it's a pretty cool project. It allows us to run a lot of very what would have been at one time hard to run things on the car, and kind of change the way we architect how you have a car getting driven from Bluemix.
Perfect. Thanks a lot. Good. So I think what I'll probably do is I'll just maybe start wrapping up. So if there's any final questions, just ping them in the chat and I'll try and cover them. But just as kind of a recap, so we're basically all going to be getting together on the 4th of October. So what I'm going to do after, a lot of people have been asking about the teams and how we do all this. So the general thinking is you can have basically between 1 to 3 people in your team. So if you want, you can just basically be on your own, or if you want to pair up with your friends, you can do that. Or if you want to basically be paired up with some developers that you don't know, we're going to try and help you do that as well. So I think the best way to do this is I'm going to share like a sort of doc sheet with everybody, and basically kind of sync up skills. We'll try and put kind of less experienced developers with more experienced developers, so we can get a nice kind of mix of teams and some good sort of experiences and learning on the day. So that's going to be the format. So we're starting quite early in the morning, so I think things kick off early morning. So I'll share a schedule with everybody around about lunchtime. The kind of main hacking is going to begin, and it goes round about until about 6 o'clock-ish. If it runs late, then we can possibly hold the venue a bit later. And it's going to be held in a venue called Hillan in Uppsala, which probably a lot of you know is the Salahall, where the river is, basically. So I'm going to be dropping an email to everyone about that quite shortly, and helping everyone to organise the teams. But in the meantime, is there any final questions, even also about the hackathon itself? If you've got any questions, just ping them in the chat now. Otherwise, I'm going to say a massive thank you to the IBM team for coming in, and also you guys over in San Francisco. Nice one with the hackathon, and thanks for joining us. I think we've lost Brendan. There.
Sorry, I was on mute. My battery was dying. I had to plug it in. Thanks, guys. Have fun.
Good stuff. Thanks a lot, Brandon. I think we're pretty good with questions now. So we will see you all probably on the 4th of October for the hackathon. So just ping me. And what we'll do is after the chat, I'll share also the Slack link with everyone. So if you want to continue the conversation, just join the Slack group. Slack is basically an instant messaging app that you can exchange messages with people. So it's kind of like a hangout, just all the time, basically. So there's a load of good developers in there, and if you want to find good developers to work with, that's a good place to look. And thanks for joining in, and see you on the 4th.
Thank you, Brent. Jason. Bye-bye.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.